Hi, my name is Matthew Bellisario. Thanks for joining me today on the BellisarioSonic YouTube channel. Today is another Pivotal Artists, Pivotal Albums episode. It's been a little while since I've done one of these, but there's still many that I want to do, and I thought this would be a great time to do Kiss, since they're supposedly doing their quote-unquote farewell tour, yet not quite farewell, because we got this whole Avatar thing now that they've come up with. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that, what I think about that. But on these Pivotal Artists, Pivotal Albums, on this series, I just talk about the artists and albums that have had a great effect on me throughout the years, whether it was when I was younger, older, or when, different times throughout my life, the way these different bands hit me and how they had an effect on me. And of course, Kiss was one of those bands that got me when I was very young. I had my stepbrother living with me, and I want to say it was about 1976, 77. And I remember he was living in our basement. And I remember one day coming home from school, and he had this cassette tape that he played on one of these small cassette players, and he stuck it in there, and he's like, sit down and listen to this. And the song was, I wanna rock and roll all night. So anyways, he plays this, and he's like, sing it, sing it. He's playing it back, rewinding it, sing it, repeat after me. And that was how I was introduced to Kiss. I was like 6 years old, 7 years old. And when this album came out here, which I believe was 1977, I remember it well because we were in a Sears, a department store, and I remember bugging my mother to buy me the album, which I no longer have. It got so scratched up from putting quarters on it and on my crummy record player when I was a kid that it was utterly useless, and it was so beat up. And anyways, when I kind of had a cleansing of my records, I just chucked them. They were in such bad shape. But that was the first album that I'd ever had with my, after pestering my mom in the department store, Ma, look at this. I want to get this. Put that back. Where the heck are these guys? Looking at the back with all the picture of all four of these guys on the album. And she's looking at it. She's like, put this back. And anyways, I just kept pestering her, and finally she just like, give me the damn record, puts it in the cart, and my poor mother just had to deal with me pestering her, and she bought me this Kiss Alive 2 album. That was the first record I ever owned. So that record had a big effect on me, and of course ended up picking up Alive 1 later. But with Kiss, for me, it was a big influence when I was younger. The band, the songs, Detroit Rock City, King of the Nighttime World, Hard Luck Woman, Shock Me. I was a big Ace Frehley fan, so I ended up getting the Ace Frehley record, which I no longer have the original one of, but I had this ordered on TV. There was a big television advertisement on this record whenever this came out, 78, I think, and maybe 79. But when this came out, they had a big television advertisement, Ace Frehley, and had Back in the New York Groove was the big tune on television, and we sent away for it, and I got the album in the mail. And so this was one of my favorite records back then, and had the big poster on my wall of Ace Frehley. And then I had the Peter Criss album on this as well. Those were also beat up as well, so that's why I got rid of those. But the songs on this, I love this record. This was just a great rock record with Rip It Out, Speeding Back to My Baby, Snowblind, Ozone, What's on Your Mind, New York Groove, I'm in Need of Love. All of those were just among my favorite rock songs. I really liked that record a lot. But the big pivotal albums was Kiss Alive 1 and, of course, Kiss Alive 2. Talking a little bit about as far as them having an effect on me, playing guitar and learning all those tunes and stuff like that. I learned a few of them, but I quickly grew out of Kiss. So the last album that I remember buying on CD, I think, was the Revenge album, and I think that's 1992, pulling it up here, looking at it online. 1992, that was the last thing I'd ever buy of them. And most of the CDs or cassette tapes that I had of them, they all went by the wayside, and I never spent a lot of more time listening to their stuff later on in life. After my early 20s, Kiss was pretty much done. And although those hooks and those kind of things all stuck with me, just in the basic idea of playing rock music on the guitar and things like that. Of course, those things I think always stuck with me a bit, because there are a lot of great hooks that they wrote. They had a lot of catchy songs, and so I think that always stuck with me. And Ace Frehley always stuck with me the most from that band, just because I always was attracted to the guitar, and he had the smoking guitar with the smoke coming out of it and all that kind of stuff, and I thought that was just the coolest thing when I was a kid. So I always loved Ace Frehley. And so a couple of thoughts on the band now. Was kind of a shame that I hear that they didn't even invite Ace Frehley or Peter Criss to their final show, which most of the fans wanted to happen. Of course, you've had that kind of a feud going between these guys, Peter Criss and Ace Frehley, and Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley on the other side, and all these other players that have come through the band. And that's never really been a big thing for me, because again, I kind of grew out of them in my early 20s. I was kind of done. The last time I saw them, I think, was probably 92 when that Revenge album came out. I think I saw them in Miami, Florida. That would be the last time I would ever see them. And so as far as what I think about Kiss today, about this whole idea of the avatar thing. So if you haven't kept up with this, the big announcement the other night was that Kiss is not, they're going to kind of retire, but they're not going away. So they dressed up in these motion suits and had these avatars created, and I think they're using George Lucas Studios, George Lucas Entertainment, in order to do all these graphics where they're going to show up or do these shows remotely. I don't know what the ultimate idea is supposed to be here, whether or not they're going to just use these avatars to create things later on, create videos, or whether they're going to actually try to do live concerts with these things, putting up holograms and trying to do this an actual live concert. And I imagine that the way they could do this is just my thoughts, is that you can actually have people playing together, a band, anywhere. It doesn't have to be Paul Stanley or Gene Simmons. It can be any group of paid musicians to put these bodysuits on with all those, motion suits is what they're called. And you can actually be in a studio somewhere, and you could actually pipe them playing live, their instruments, with these motion suits on, but yet you could actually pipe this in, because it's going to be graphics of these avatars. So anybody can be a Gene Simmons, anybody can be a Paul Stanley or Ace Frehley or Peter Criss, these avatar characters that they've created. You'd be able to have an actual live concert, playing these instruments live, playing the songs live, even writing new songs under the Kiss name. And you can actually pipe these out into a live concert hall anywhere in the world. That's something to think about. Is this what it's coming down to for these legacy bands of trying to be immortal, which is kind of silly in a sense. I think it's kind of comes across very arrogant to me that you think you can live forever in an avatar. It's kind of silly, but I can see the attraction to it from a money point of view, for their families being able to carry on this legacy after they're gone, and that you could pretty much get any anonymous group of players to wear these motion suits and run around and put on a show in a small private studio somewhere, and actually pipe that out to multiple audiences, even at the same time. So, you could have Paul Stanley, the Paul Stanley avatar, and with AI, you can even have where the voices get replicated to sound exactly like Paul Stanley or Gene Simmons or Ace Frehley, because those can be duplicated by AI nowadays. So those voices can be taken, and when you sing them, they can come out piped out through the software that sound exactly like these people. And so what you can actually have, what you could do is charge even as, 10, 20, 30 bucks to one of these concerts, bring thousands of people in Las Vegas, Los Angeles, Washington, Atlanta. And of course, these guys can be in the studio, and all these graphics things are put out so that you look and sound like Paul Stanley and all the band. And it's like, all right, Los Angeles, Las Vegas. All right, we're all here for the concert. They could do all this stuff, and it's not even those guys. It's just a group of even better musicians than what they are, playing their songs, jumping around, and actually people in all these different places seeing a live concert of live music. It's just being piped in. Now, the only thing with this would have to be is that the graphics would have to be pretty good in order for people to pay to go see this. Otherwise, you could sit at home and watch something like this, right? So if you're going to go to an arena and see something, it's got to be pretty spectacular. It'd have to be something that people can't see at home. So maybe the graphics, that they've got to step that up. And of course, when you've got a company like George Lucas Entertainment working on this, they're going to be able to come up with some kind of graphics engine to where you can actually see the stuff in 3D almost, these different holograms in different places. They can place the characters and they can be flying all over the place. And of course, with Kiss, you've got these characters with the laser beams out of your eyes and Paul Stanley and all these different, cartoonish type things, characters that you can do all kinds of stuff with that you wouldn't be able to do with the actual people on stage, right? So that's just my thoughts on what this whole AI thing might be coming to, and how these, with Kiss, it's kind of unique because you've got all the makeup, you've got the characters, you've got that kind of stuff you can play with. Where like with the Rolling Stones, it's a little harder to do that. Yeah, you could create an avatar of Mick Jagger, and maybe if as the technology gets better, maybe they do that. Maybe they get Mick Jagger and Keith Richards and these guys to use these suits to make these characters and their movements, and they can put those into an engine and create these things. Even if it's not in an arena, they could make live concert performances that are graphics oriented that people would pay to watch, maybe, or something like that, so that you could start immortalizing all of these movie stars and rock stars to where you can actually put them in movies and films and have them long gone, but yet the estates making the money and the graphics studios making the money by being able to recreate these environments with these movie stars and so forth, rock stars. So I think that's the kind of mentality behind it. For me, once they're gone, I tend to think that, you got to see them while you're alive, and that's it. They're gone, they're gone. Kind of like, you're never going to see Led Zeppelin again, probably. Of course, with the original lineup, John Bonham's long gone. So I think that that's kind of the gist behind this whole Avatar thing. Anyways, back to their influence. Kiss had a big influence on me growing up and really got me into the rock music at the very beginning when I was a young kid, 6, 7, 8 years old. And this solo album was one of my favorites, and Kiss Alive 2 and Kiss Alive 1 were certainly those pivotal albums that will forever have had an effect on me and on my musical outlook. And of course, the whole idea of the stage show was certainly one of those things that they brought to the forefront. Besides Alice Cooper, I don't think anybody else was doing anything like that. And so they really brought that whole stage element, the whole presentation, the stage show, all that to the forefront. They were really big on doing that. And so, of course, you can see that their final tour, all the tickets they sold, people are still into it. For me, I kind of grew out of it when I was younger. But again, I can still acknowledge the effect and that their music had on me, and their whole persona and everything that it had on me from being a young kid up into my early 20s musically. And so, and of course, again, all that stuff kind of carries on with you in some way, shape, or form as you move on, even when you're not listening to their music. So that's my Pivotal Artist, Pivotal Albums Kiss episode. Stay tuned for more, and we'll talk to you later on. Thanks for joining me.